Alex, here's my feedback on the first draft of your coursework essay on The Great Gatsby. Okay, first of all, just take about 10 minutes or so to go through all my annotations before you listen to this video, then it will make a lot more sense rather than trying to follow along with me. Okay, so assuming you've done that, some of the points, particularly in the introduction, are just to do with expression. So strung through is too colloquial, so I want you to find a synonym for that idea, to do with how an idea can be traced through or runs through a text but avoids that phrase strung through. The titles of the texts, I'm not going to correct every single one, but you need to make sure that you have capital letters for every word of a title and single inverted commas. Or italics, it's up to you, but whatever you do, the style has to be consistent throughout. Muscle cars are something that wasn't really invented till the 50s, so we'll just take that word out. Okay, from the next sentence onwards, you have a tendency throughout this essay to talk about the characters, particularly Gatsby, like he's real. So I'd like you to reconsider pretty much every sentence to make sure that you're definitely focusing on the character as a construct as opposed to a real being. I quite like this idea of it being Ukrainian, but I wonder where you got that idea from. You just need to reference it, if that's something that somebody said. And make sure you get his name the right way round. He was James Gatz, and then he became J. Gatsby. Make sure that we don't have any contractions, so verses in full. And please reread that sentence, because the expression in it is a bit unclear, and some of the clauses are backwards. That's a sentence that starts, "This idea of new money versus old money and less fortunate people working their way up, if you work hard you can make it, presents the idea of the American dream, which is prominent throughout." So you need to start with presents, and then the second part of the sentence is the idea of new money. So Fitzgerald presents the idea of the American dream prominently throughout the text, and then explain what the American dream is. Okay. A couple of times you say that Capote uses illusion and artifice. Illusion and artifice are themes, so he presents themes. You can only say that an author uses something if it's a literary device or technique, like a metaphor. Do you watch the spelling of Lula May? I haven't corrected it there, but I've corrected it elsewhere. I think it's with two L's and also an E, not a Y. Okay. Again, we've got a couple of words missed out here. Both Gatsby and Holly are presented as having gained status and money from what illusion? Like, what have they done with illusion? Have they created illusions? Have they created false versions of themselves? For Gatsby, it's the facade. So Gatsby has created the facade. So we just need to make sure that your expression is sophisticated all the way through. For Holly, the association with Tiffany's connects her to, and you could call it upmarket at best rather than highbrow, but what we haven't got at the end of this introduction is a thesis. So what I don't know is why illusion is such a prevalent theme. You've introduced a little bit of the American dream briefly. You said what the American dream is, but you haven't said how the American dream and illusion are necessarily connected to each other. So you have to explain at the end, when you're coming up with your thesis statement, that essentially both authors are arguing that the American dream itself is an illusory concept. And that's why illusion is such a prevalent theme in both novels. Okay. You have had a tendency, I think it's because you've taken stuff out of a plan and sort of put it into the essay without proofreading it. You've got a lot of sections that repeat verbatim. So the bit between the brackets on the bottom of page 1 is repeated verbatim. So you need to have a bridge sentence, but it can't be worded exactly the same way, and it's obviously got to be a lot shorter. So rephrase that. Let's have a look at page 2. Okay, so again we've got a redefinition of the American dream and a bit on American context. But this is where you start conflating, as I said in my marginal note, conflating the real and the unreal. So you're talking about real America that really happened during the 1920s. And then you're saying young people like Gatsby in the novel. So you're sort of conflating the real and the unreal a little bit there. You need to be clear in your expression what Fitzgerald is doing. So how is Fitzgerald using context to inform what happens in the novel?